Bellying up to the 9-foot homemade oak bar. My name is Craig Toth, your host of Minor League News and Brews, talking about everything around the Pirates minor league system and giving you some beer reviews at the end of the show. Today, on the day that I am recording, it is the home opener for your Pittsburgh Pirates, but also the openers for the Altoona Curve, Greensboro Grasshoppers, and Bradenton Marauders. The Indianapolis Indians already got underway back on Friday, March the 29th, right after the opening day for the Pirates. And we were waiting a while for the roster announcements to come up on the X, the Twitter sphere, whatever you still want to call it nowadays. I saw myself, Anthony Murphy, Nola Jeffy, at Eric Birdland from the Florida Prospect Report, anxiously awaiting those announcements. They did come out, and there were some surprises, and surprises to, I would say, a certain group of people. The first comment that I saw on the post, the one that I was looking at, was, "Why no Termarr and Altoona?" It was echoed throughout the thread, and I will get to that in a little bit. But most importantly is my Pirates prospect fantasy roster that I did with Anthony Murphy at _ Murphy88 and Jeff Reed at Nola Jeffy. If you haven't, go back and listen to that episode. We had a really good time. Going to be checking in throughout the year to give you guys some updates on changes that we've made to our teams, how we're doing in that. But I had to make a change a little bit earlier due to a trade. Jackson Wolf was traded back to the Padres for infielder Kervin Pachardo. Now, I had seen Jackson Wolf pitch down on the backfields back when I was down in Bradenton at Pirate City for spring training, and I believe I talked about that on an episode as well, where I thought the things that I was seeing from Wolf were, fairly encouraging. So, hey guys, what do I know? Wolf was DFA'd ahead of opening day to make room. He was part of the moves for Jones, Ryder Ryan, Hunter Stratton. Last year, when Wolf was acquired, across his time in Double-A in both San Diego and Altoona, he pitched 124 innings, had a 4.13 ERA, a 1.11 WHIP, with 135 Ks and 3 base on balls. Now, like I said, the stuff that I was seeing from him, I thought that his, off-speed pitches were looking kind of crisp, delivering all of his pitches from a very similar arm slot, has a very, unique wind-up where he kind of, I'm doing it again. I think I did it on the previous show where he kind of does like this rolling motion with his hands before he comes set and then delivers the pitch. Well, the Pirates, the one thing that I did read on this is that they wanted to see more life, more velo out of his fastball. Fastball was coming in, about 89 miles per hour up to 90. They wanted to see it living more in the 90 to 91 range. And also, this is, part of the 40-man roster crunch. And I know that, as Pirates fans, we have a list of guys that we could see being removed from that 40-man. There's some, really high candidates on that list. Wolf was, obviously on the list for many, but this was a surprise to myself and other Pirates fans that I saw out there. But Wolf was more than likely going to start the season back in Double A Altoona. Not really sure if he had a route to the majors this year. When he was traded from the Padres, he was already on the Padres 40 man, had to be added kind of to our 40 man. So it gave a little bit of that roster crunch where you have guys that when he arrived with the Pirates that maybe kind of passed him up a little bit. An Anthony Solomito, a Bubba Chandler that, may have gotten the shot before him and possibly could have. I mean, I mentioned when he was acquired that he had pitched an inning in San Diego or had pitched a start in San Diego. And that was more out of necessity for the Padres. There's those times where you need somebody for a spot start, and they happen to be, closer in proximity travel-wise to the ballpark. We saw that with Liover Peguero a couple years ago where he was in Altoona. O'Neill Cruz was, I believe, playing down in Iowa when he was playing for the Indianapolis Indians. Peguero was going to get at it. He's on the 40 man. He is kind of, brought up. He gets his, 3 at bats or whatever it may be and is sent back down. So with Wolf going, I guess it's not as much of a surprise as I thought. Obviously, as a Pirates prospect fan, you kind of fall in love with some of those players and you want to see them succeed. And you want to be right about, the prospects that you're identifying within the system. Does not mean that Jackson Wolf, still a very young man, couldn't have a place on a major league roster at some point in time in his career. But as far as the Pirates go for right now, didn't really see a spot for him. So let's talk about Kervin Pichardo. Pichardo is 22 years old, originally signed by the Phillies back in June of 2019 during an international signing period, given a $100,000 signing bonus, ended up being traded to San Diego in March of 2022 for James Norwood, a pitcher who, as far as I know, has elected free agency, pitched in 2022 for the Phillies, didn't have a lot of great success out of the pen. As far as Pichardo goes, in 2023, he spent most of his time in high A in the San Diego system, slashing .267, .387, .410 with 8 home runs, a 25.6% K rate, a 13.7% base on ball rate, a 131 WRC plus, got the promotion to Double A only for 51 plate appearances, struggled a little bit, got a slash line of 205, 280, 364 with 2 home runs, 27.5% K rate. Didn't see that bump up much, but did see the base on ball rate drop to 5.99, WRC plus 68, and he is now assigned to Altoona. And because of some injuries and some possible, surprise assignments, he is now on my fantasy team. And there were some other changes that had to happen. Myself, Murph, and Nola have a little chat going on about our fantasy team. And my team, not only, with the move I already had to make with Wolf, there were a slew of things that had happened. I had added Eddie Rodriguez to my team because of Emmanuel Torrero on the IL. Eddie himself starts out on the 7-day IL. And some, no surprise here. I had picked up Xander Meath. I wasn't sure if he was going to start in Bradenton or the FCL, if they were going to be aggressive with his placement, or maybe get him, kind of started out in the FCL before hopefully bringing him up to Bradenton towards the end of the year. And that's something I'm definitely going to get to with the Tamar stuff here, as to something that John Baker and Ben Cherington do with a lot of the prospects. A big surprise for me, Owen Kellington, trying to look in to see what's going on with Kellington. We had seen, we knew that Thomas Harrington had an injury. Murph had to, remove him from the team, but that was a shoulder injury that was reported when I was down in Bradenton. He was supposed to appear in the prospect breakout game, had a shoulder injury there, so it was something that we knew about. Kellington, not really sure what's going on there. Yordani De Los Santos, another surprise for me. And then Yanni Severino, more than likely another one that will be in the FCL and hopefully up to Bradenton, but going to be looking for some updates on them. For Murph and Nola, Jungshuk Shim is also on the IL. Jared Jones had to be replaced. Going to go see him pitch later today. Obviously in Pittsburgh, had a great first start. We're going to see how he performs in the home opener against Grayson Rodriguez. Sosa and Diamond also needed to be replaced on those fantasy rosters. Can't wait to bring Nola and Murph on here at some point in time to discuss how our teams are doing. Something very cool that we decided to do at the beginning of the year. First inaugural Pirates prospect fantasy draft and fantasy league. Maybe we could add somebody next year, but I don't know. Even with the only 3 people in it and the changes that I had to make, it's been a pretty cool and hectic thing. But once again, today, opening day for the rest of the Pirates minor league affiliates. Home opener. My voice already gone from a little bug that I've been dealing with for a few days here. Gonna be out in the snow, so maybe watching some of those games from my bed when I get home today. Are you a fan of the Pittsburgh Pirates and supporting small businesses? If so, Bucs in the Basement has you covered. Introducing the Bucs in the Basement VOUCH store, with products from places like Split Rock Coffee. Coffee with a purpose. Established, owned, and operated by disabled veterans, sworn to protect America. Or Camp Craft Cocktails. More than cocktails. It's a mission to build longer tables where everyone is welcome. We try and vouch for these products. Bucs in the Basement, proudly brought to you by VOUCH. Visit our VOUCH store at bucsinthebasement.com or simply click on the link in the show notes. As I have mentioned, one of the first comments, and the comment I saw the most, was concerning Tamar Johnson's assignment to the Greensboro Grasshoppers, where he had finished his season off last year. Pirates fans got a glimpse of him in spring training at the Pirates prospect breakout game. Saw maybe a little bit more of an advanced approach from him in that extreme small sample size. Tamar was a guy that wasn't really trying to swing for the fences in his time in Bradenton last year and in Greensboro, but definitely showed more power over hit. When he was drafted, he was, kind of given that really extreme hit tool with some power. Listened to some podcasts, read a lot of stuff on him, and there was a discussion concerning his, maybe transition to more of a power over hit tool, what that would do in his development. But when we saw him, he was kind of going down for balls, doing a little bit more of situational hitting, going with the ball if there was an outside pitch. And, a lot of people were shading him towards the pull side, that he would just kind of, maybe pull back, choke up a little bit and just poke something out to be able to get a hit. I mean, we're going to be able to see a lot more of that as this season develops. But, I mean, people were saying, maybe isn't he ready for Double-A? Shouldn't he be in Altoona? Get his cup of coffee at the end of this season and pushing towards the major leagues and seeing Greensboro as, not the assignment that he should have gotten. But, I mean, this is something that I have talked about, I feel like, at great length, since I started doing this minor league news and brews. And then also prior to that, when I, still do, and when I do the Bucs in the Basement podcast with my good friend Chris Lanuti down at the 9-Foot Homemade Oak Bar, I have talked about how, Ben Cherington and John Baker in the development of Pirates players, yes, they have been aggressive with some placements of Pirates prospects. And being aggressive is that when, a player does not have much time at a certain level, or maybe not any time whatsoever at that level, you would see them kind of either skip a level or, during the or at the beginning of the next year, getting that advanced placement, whether it be starting in Greensboro when we thought they would start in Bradenton, or Altoona, when we thought they would start in Greensboro, and, Indianapolis when we thought they would start in Altoona. But I talk a lot about giving a player a runway where they can experience success, where they can get up to speed as a plane is, getting ready for takeoff, to be able to have that runway, to experience success, to get that confidence underneath them. Also, and check some of those boxes that you need to do. I mean, when a pilot is getting ready for takeoff, he is going through his thing and checking to make sure everything is working on the plane, to make sure that as you are starting that season, that you are, the best that you can be, and that you have done everything that you need to do at that certain level to be able to experience that success, so that when you are expected to land and on that runway at the next level, that you are coming in and you can have as smooth of a transition. Now, I do know that as players are moving up from a level, that they could have, those fallbacks or whatever it may be, little struggles whenever they reach that level. But, giving them that success at that lower level before they actually, are expected to come into Altoona, in the case of Tamar Johnson, that he has, done the things that he has needed to do, gotten off to a good start in Greensboro before arriving in Altoona, to maybe make those struggles shorter when he gets to Altoona. I mean, that's not a guarantee, but it has been, an approach that Baker and that Cherington have taken since they've arrived here in Pittsburgh with the Pirates organization. And one player that I know that people, he's on the Pirates now, so it's something that it will be new and fresh in your minds. I do remember back in 2021 when Oneil Cruz was reassigned at, towards the end of spring training. Cherington had misspoke and said that he was going to be reassigned, that he was going to be optioned. Sorry, Ethan Houlihan. He was going to be optioned down to AAA Indianapolis, but in actuality, he was going to be optioned to AA Altoona. And for him, he had come up to Altoona during the 2019 season, got 136 plate appearances, had slashed 269, 346, 412, 120 WRC plus with 1 home run. And people would see as, that he had done a lot of great stuff, during that time, and that he had performed well during that spring training. And, Indianapolis would be the, best place for him. And it was more within, our fandom that we wanted to see, Oneil Cruz in Pittsburgh as soon as possible. Now, they wanted to give him, that little bit of that runway to make sure all those boxes were checked in Altoona. And I did see, some stuff with the strikeout rate that, there may be some stuff. I mean, everybody that's been on this podcast, especially John Moses from the Altoona Curve, we've talked about, how pitchers in high A, aren't as polished as the pitchers that are in double A. The pitchers in high A, a lot of the times, they can live off of their fastballs and blowing them past people. And even if their, breaking stuff is outside of the zone, you're going to get more swings and misses in high A. Now, when you come to double A, the pitchers are able to, put their fastballs where they want them to be, guiding them on, whether it's the high rising fastball or the outside. Their breaking pitches are able to live more in the zone, and you have to have a more advanced approach to the plate. And I saw it that, Ben Cherington and John Baker wanted to see more of that stuff from Oneil Cruz. He got 273 plate appearances in AA Altoona during that 2021 season. You saw the average come up to 292. The on-base percentage stayed right where it was at 346. So he was still getting on base. He was still doing what he needed to do. And we saw more of that power that we have come to love, know, expect from Oneil Cruz with the 12 home runs. So basically in, twice as many plate appearances, you saw the home runs go from 1 home run, to 12 home runs. You saw him be able to get his stroke down there, to expand the zone. A 136 WRC plus up from 120. And I mean, I know that's not much of a jump, but it's the stuff that they needed to see from him. So basically what I'm saying here is to be patient and see, that a guy who started last year on the IL in Tamar Johnson and was brought up to speed and experienced success in Bradenton and came up to, Greensboro. His numbers, the different stuff that we look at from him in Bradenton. 330 plate appearances, slashing 244, 419, 448 with a 141 WRC plus, 13 home runs. a 26.7 K rate, a 21.8 base on ball rate, and then going up to Greensboro and getting 132 plate appearances, kind of very similar to O'Neal Cruz's, 136 plate appearances in Altoona in 2019. The 242, 427, 414 slash line, a very similar, like 142 WRC plus across each level. And then, not as many home runs, obviously not as many plate appearances, but, we know what Greensboro is as far as, it's a hitter's ballpark. We saw the K rate stay very, consistent at 24.2%. The base on ball rate, a thing that we really like to see, staying up over 20% at 22.0%. They want to see that continue. They want to see that happen. I don't think that, they will hold him back in Greensboro if he gets off to a hot start there. But, as much as it pains us is that, Ben Cherington, John Baker, they like to see so many plate appearances at each level. And obviously, a prospect can force the hand. But I kind of am in the same mindset to a degree where it's like there's these tiers and these things that you have to you have to check off. And that would be, once you get past those, 100 plus plate appearances, then, you get to the 300 plate appearances. You get to the 500 plate appearances, and that shows like the more consistency. That gives you that larger sample size to look for. So yes, am I looking forward, and would I have liked to seen, Tamar Johnson in Altoona Curve jersey when I hopefully head out there, early on in April, absolutely. But am I disappointed that he is in Greensboro? Absolutely not. I think that will be a good, runway for him, so that he hopefully has a good landing spot for him when he arrives in Altoona.
A pitcher of beer, a pitcher of beer, let's order another pitcher of beer. That pitcher of beer should come over here. I love that pitcher of beer.
Leading up to and at the beginning of the Easter weekend, I was lucky enough to get to taste a wide variety of beers. The first one that I was turned on to was Bell's Oberon Eclipse. And for anybody that's had the regular Bell's Oberon, the citrus wheat, is one of my wife's favorite summer beers. This one has a little bit, obviously because of the eclipse, and with the eclipse coming up now, has a little bit of the darker hue to it, and that is due to the darker malt. Still has the great taste and flavor that you would expect from the original Bell's Oberon. Coming in at 6.3%, give that one a 450, knock it down to 400. The wife and I went out to brunch following Easter Mass at Ditka's. Ditka's has their own Steel City Red, brewed by Hamburg Brewing Company out of Hamburg, New York, coming in at 4.8%. Give that one a 450 as well. Knock it down to 400. My brother-in-law and his wife and my wonderful niece and nephew were coming back through from their spring break visiting Washington, D.C. They stopped at Right Proper Brewing Company, which brought back the Senate beer from an old brewery using the old, recipe. It was a delicious, crisp lager coming in at 4.7%. Give that one a 400. Knock it down to 350. And the last one is one that I'm pretty sure that I have reviewed previously, but I always like to do this to basically see if my palate has changed. to see if a beer that I maybe didn't like the first time tastes a little bit better. This one is Goose Island's IPA, an English IPA, coming in at 5.9%. Give that one a 425, knock it down to 375. Gonna have to go back and listen and check my notes here and see what I had given this one previously. As you guys can tell, my voice is giving out. The 30 minutes of Bucs has been a strain on what has been a voice that has been going in and out for this entire week. Opening day for all of the affiliates. Everybody is going to get going today on the 5th of April. So until next time, guys, let's go Indians. Let's go Curve, let's go Hoppers, and let's go Bradenton Marauders.